What's up, everybody? Welcome to a trade deadline spectacular on the Schrager Hour. We are up to the minute, and we are going right up to the trade deadline in real time as we record this on Tuesday afternoon in New York City. And, well, the Jets are saying, boop, boop. It was fun while it lasted. We out with basically the franchise cornerstones on defense that they have drafted with top 10 picks in the last few years and given monster money to. Both Sauce Gardner and Quinnen Williams have been traded within the last hour. And judging by the discourse around the league, bit of a surprise. I think everyone thought maybe Breece Hall or Quincy Williams, Quinnen's brother, would be the ones that were traded. But nope, they're going to the top of their salary cap, and they're going to the top paid players on defense, and two guys who, from all accounts, are great dudes. I know that doesn't matter in the grand scheme. A lot of people, there's been a lot of nice players in the NFL, but I've been around the Jets a long time, and I did the preseason games the last few years. I have been to countless practices. I have had conversations on the record, off the record. I did the sidelines this year on a Dolphins-Jets game where we had Quinnen Williams in the room with us. Quinnen Williams is an all-time guy. He's a beloved teammate. He's a wonderful player, and he is everything you would think you would want in a defensive lineman. He gives it his all. He plays hard, and he is a vocal leader on that team. And yet they trade him for a first-round pick. As for Sauce, not as vocal, not as necessarily franchise guy as far as voice in the locker room, but a great dude, a individual who spent his offseason living in New Jersey, not a guy you're going to see out in, New York City, or you have to worry about it all being a flashy cornerback with the lifestyle that you would think with paying a guy that much. But no, he is a guy who likes golf. He likes video games, and he likes to chill. So you're trading now two franchise top 10 guy who was a third overall pick and a guy who was defensive player of the rookie year, or defensive rookie of the year when he was selected, and was a first team all pro in Sauce Gardner. And you're saying we're better off just moving on. What that tells me, the Muji era has begun, and Woody Johnson and Chris Johnson are giving the keys to the GM and to a head coach, Aaron Glenn, who knows defense, and saying, guys, the show is yours. I don't know if you're going to find a better player than Quinnen Williams in the next couple of drafts on your defensive line. I don't know if you're going to find another Quinnen Williams in the draft in the next couple of years. That guy's awesome. I don't know if you're going to find another Sauce Gardner in the draft the next couple of years with these first round picks. But I do know they're a terrible football team, and they're paying these guys a lot of money, and it almost feels like it's Moneyball. Let's just pull the cord now, let someone else foot the bill, and we're going to use all that salary cap space, and we're going to use all these draft picks to start anew. And these players are going to be in the cultural fit of whatever Aaron Glenn sees fit. Fascinating trades from the Jets, because again, I cannot stress this enough. Those are good players. Those are great guys. And yet the team is atrocious. And whether this was an emotional decision or a very rational decision, I would say towards the latter. You can't be paying guys this money for too many years if the results are what they are. So, gosh, I'm still taking it all in. And as you are probably listening hours later on the pod or watching on the pod, but I'm blown away. I'm blown away. And kudos to Woody Johnson letting Darren Mushi make these trades, because a lot of times it's wait, we just did a press conference with this guy and we announced a $100 million deal. What are we doing now trading him? Nope, they're out. They're gone. So now they have 3 first-round picks, and they have A.D. Mitchell, and they lose basically Quinnen Williams to the Cowboys, and they lose obviously Sauce Gardner to the Colts. From the Colts standpoint, I love it. I know it's getting picked apart. I saw Pete Prisco, a guy I respect on CBS, saying they got fleeced. I don't know. I love it. I see a team that is loaded with veteran guys. Quentin Nelson is a veteran guy. Jonathan Taylor is not a first-year running back. He's got paid. You have Kenny Moore and DeForest Buckner as maybe your top 2 defensive players, and those guys are not young. Zaire Franklin is not young. These are all like veteran guys. They're 7-2. They see a window, and corner's an area of need. So they're making a trade. You can't criticize them trading 2 first-round picks for a all-pro corner who's 26 years old and not knowing what those first-round picks are going to be, or if they're even at the front of the draft. So I like it from Indy's side. Cowboys, we were looking for a big splash. We got a big splash. I don't know what else to say. I watched this team in person on Monday night. That defense, you could add guys who've been retired for 3 years, and it's an upgrade from whatever they had. So Quinnen Williams to me is a very good player. To give up a first-round pick seems wild, but then again, they acquired first-round pick for Micah. I mean, it'll all wash out. We'll see how it is over the course of their careers, but it's Micah Parsons. We're not going to pay this money. Quinnen Williams, we are going to pay this money. The first-round picks almost neutralize themselves. We'll see. Maybe teams won't run all over them. Maybe Rico Dowdle doesn't go for 250 yards on them next time they play if Quinnen Williams is there. Maybe DeMarcado doesn't dance all over them, and Bam Knight doesn't dance all over them like they did on Monday Night Football if Quinnen Williams is there. Again, I don't know if it's 3-5-1 if that was going to change the season, but you get Quinnen Williams. I think he's a really good young player. I think he's a great kid. I've said that now 10 times. So I like that for Dallas, regardless of what else he has around him. It's a good cornerstone piece. You've got Quinnen Williams now for the next several years. Coming into this day, I didn't think there was going to be this many big names, but Quinnen Williams, Sauce Gardner, massive names. And you're talking about the Colts going all in. You're talking about the Cowboys trying to salvage something. And you're telling the Jets, basically, we're all out. We're putting our chips, everyone's putting their chips in the middle of the table. The Jets are like, we're taking them all the way back. We'll kick the can forward for the next couple of years. That's trade deadline talk and fast and furious, but there were several other things I wanted to hit. The first being the New York City Marathon. As a New Yorker, I have to take a moment to just do what I always do year after year and talk about the New York City Marathon. It's the greatest event that New York City has to offer. It is the greatest sporting event that I witness on a yearly basis, and that includes going to AFC and NFC championship games and the Super Bowl and the Combine and the draft. Picture this: 70,000 people participate in the New York City Marathon. And it's not just New Yorkers. It is the entire world. And they fly in just for this. And in many cases, they bring friends and family. So you get on the subway in the morning on Sunday, you look around, it is a cultural melting pot like no other. And everyone's either A, a runner headed to Staten Island to start that thing, or B, they are supporting a runner that they know, or even C, have no one that they know running. They're just there to enjoy the moment and celebrate 70,000 people trying to accomplish this goal. I am not a runner. I've never done a half marathon. I've never done a marathon. I don't think either of those things are in my future. However, I am so inspired every year by the New York City Marathon. And this year was really cool. We had a couple friends that were running in it, and we like to go to an area in Brooklyn. It's 25th Street on 4th Avenue. And if you're looking at the 26 miles or the 26.2 miles, that's about between miles 4 and 5. All right. So you get to about between 4 and 5. It's right over the Verrazano. We're often the first people any of our friends see, because a lot of people set up in Manhattan, or they even go to Fort Greene in Brooklyn, or they'll be doing the deal where they're hanging out in Central Park. All good. That's at the end of the race when probably people need you most. But we're the first faces people see. And we had friends Josh and Jeffrey, and our friend Rachel was running in it. Our friend Leslie was running in it. So my wife, me, my son, and my friend Tanny, we all get together. We go. And if I'm being honest, it's my favorite day as a New Yorker, because it's the rare instance where everyone's kind of on the same page. You cheer, you celebrate, you hang. And there's jokes. Everyone's making jokes. Everyone's having fun. And it's, people running by, they wear their names on it. So you've got some Italian guy named Giuseppe. I'm yelling, Giuseppe! And Giuseppe's shouting me out, what's up? Then you've got all the different causes. And, people are running for ALS. People are running for people who have passed in their lives. And they're wearing it proudly on their bib. And they're running this thing. I tell you, if if I'm romantic about anything, and sometimes I get romantic about doing a mock draft and it's a little over the top. If I'm romantic about anything, I think I could be romantic about the New York City Marathon. It's the first Sunday every year in November. The weather was perfect. The vibes were immaculate. And in a time where our country might be split at the seams in a lot of different ways, and even in sports, when we've got so much vitriol whenever you're talking sports, everyone was for the same cause on Sunday. The New York City Marathon was awesome. You cheer on strangers, you cheer on loved ones, you cheer on friends. And some comedian put it best. It's the only event where you've got 70,000 of the greatest athletes in the world, and then the rest of us are allowed to just drink, be merry, and sit on our fat asses and enjoy it. It was great. I loved it, and it put me in the best mood. And then we had a great Sunday. And if I'm emptying the NFL notebook from what we had this Sunday, I have to start again with the Seattle Seahawks. I am blown away by this Seattle Seahawks team, and I am blown away by the guile, the courage, and the smarts of their general manager, John Schneider. Now, Schneider has been with the Seahawks since 2010. So you go back all of these years as general manager tenures go, you're not going to find many that have a longer one in the history of the sport than what John Schneider is doing in Seattle right now. This is his 15th year with the team, and he's been through so many different iterations of this squad. Remember, they drafted Russell Wilson in the third round after signing Matt Flynn to a huge contract. They go through the entire Legion of Boom era. They go through the entire Russell Wilson 1.0, then 2.0 era. They move on from Russ making that trade with Denver. They bring in Drew Lock and Geno Smith. They go through that era, and then they part ways with Pete Carroll, who was the coach the whole way through. And they bring in this wide-eyed 30-something defensive coordinator from the Baltimore Ravens named Mike Macdonald. And it was one of those hires in a very busy hiring season that was kind of like, oh, well, that's interesting. Sure enough, year 2 of the Mike Macdonald era, John Schneider decides to trade away DK Metcalf to go and let Tyler Lockett explore other avenues. They decide to not re-sign Geno Smith, who's been their quarterback and been very good one the last several years. Instead, get him to Vegas so that they can go sign Sam Darnold for $100 million. And then they bring in DeMarcus Lawrence, who everyone thought was on his last legs in Dallas. He's having what it looks to be a career resurgence. And bring in Cooper Kupp, who is basically a coach on the field for this team and is treating all these young wide receivers and tight ends as pupils. And by the way, getting contributions from all 70 guys on the roster. Now, Darnold's going to make all the noise, and Jackson Smith and Jigba might be headed to a 2,000-yard season. But the biggest plays on Sunday in that blowout on national TV of the Washington Commanders were made by Ty Okada, Tyrese Knight, Elijah Arroyo. Not necessarily household names. Not guys who have people wearing their jerseys out on the streets. They demand the best from all 70 of their guys, and they dress 53, but that has been the mantra there in Seattle. And the fact that they never dipped as a franchise, the fact that they can move on from an all-time quarterback, potentially a Hall of Famer in Russell Wilson, go through a couple valleys there with a rotating door until Geno was the guy the last few years, and then to now be on the upswing where I'm watching First Take on Tuesday morning, and we've got multiple people on the show. Chris Canty saying they're the number 1 team in the NFL. Jeff Saturday saying they're the number 1 team in the NFL. I am so amazed by the job that John Schneider has done in rebuilding this entire roster and also seamlessly adding a new quarterback, coach, and this is more Macdonald, but they had a different offensive coordinator last year. How often do you see a young coach say, you know what, it didn't work? Pulls the plug after year 1 on Grubb, who was the college coach at the University of Washington the year before with Penix and with Adunze and with all those guys at Washington, and then brings in Clint Kubiak, who has a history with Sam Darnold. I could empty the bag and talk Seattle Seahawks for 2 hours. I'm so blown away with what they're doing right now. I love this team. Saw them in person on that Monday night 2 weeks ago. getting a chance to watch them come off the bye and absolutely smack around the Commanders in a game that felt really one-sided on the road while wearing those blue jerseys. Just a tremendous, tremendous few weeks from the Seattle Seahawks. And I can't say enough about their GM, their head coach, and their quarterback. Speaking of quarterback, last week we talked about J.J. McCarthy. I did the whole spiel. I said, I'm not sure. You move on from Darnold. You move on from Daniel Jones. There's a glaring spotlight on this guy, especially in the shadow of what Jaden Daniels did in year one and what Caleb's doing and what Drake May's doing and what Bo Nix is doing, and that Penix is obviously a starter. So who are you, J.J. McCarthy? You had these two different burdens on you. The guys who were Vikings quarterbacks that are no longer, and now this draft class that looks to be as good as the 04 or 83 crop. J.J. McCarthy was fantastic on Sunday. You have to realize how big a task that was for this young man. Coming in injured, because yes, he was obviously injured, playing in a way that was, I'm not going to say with reckless abandon, but using his legs, running the ball, putting himself in harm's way, not playing a protective, safe, put me in one of those, styrofoam crates. No. JJ McCarthy was out there and he was using his legs and he was risking injury every time he did, playing in that way, and also coming out and doing it in Detroit. That's what JJ McCarthy just won in Detroit against a team that everyone was crowning as the NFC North team after a few weeks and big wins that they had. Look at what Minnesota is right now. Very quietly. They lost a lot of games. They hung around. Now they're 2-0 in the division. I got a good stat for you. I was talking with a Viking source and he goes, I don't know if there's ever been a quarterback that I remember in this division who won his first two career games on the road. I'm like, what a weird thing to look into. Okay, so we're going NFC North, which was just a product of the last few decades because they did the realignment. So we went through it, and I texted Mark Eisman, who's the producer on NFL Live, a very good producer. I like this guy. Eisman says, I'll get back to you with that. So I'm figuring, all right, he's going to text me back and be like, well, actually, Jordan Love won his first two road starts as an NFC North quarterback, or, Teddy Bridgewater did da-da-da-da-da. I'm waiting. I'm like, all right, but the time is ticking. I'm like, all right, Mark's busy. He's got a lot going on. He goes, this one took a while. The last NFC North quarterback to win his first two career starts on the road, which is what J.J. McCarthy did in Chicago and in Detroit, was 2004. And if you're listening and watching at home, go through your head. So who do you think it is? Dante Culpepper? No. He was at 99 draft class. Cade McNown? No, 99. Keep thinking. All right. So who could it be? Was it a Packers? It wasn't Favre. 2004. All right. Bears. Was it Kyle Orton? No, it wasn't Kyle Orton. Was it Rex Grossman? No, it wasn't Rex Grossman. The last NFC North quarterback to win his first two road starts of his career was Craig Krenzel. Chicago Bears, 2004, won his first two road games, would end up going 3-2 for the Bears, had a brief little moment, and then eventually they would move on from Krenzel. Krenzel was famous for being a good Ohio State quarterback, a great Ohio State quarterback, but had a major, and I'm just doing off the top of my head, but he was a bioengineer major. I remember that was always the story with him. You know how you always hear Ryan Fitzpatrick actually went to Harvard, or Clayton Kershaw was actually Matthew Stafford's friend from childhood. That was always the thing with Krenzel, that he was actually really smart. He was actually a bioengineer major and could have gone to medical school. All that said, it's been a long time since a rookie could do this. And I asked my Viking sources, how did he block out the noise? Because there was a lot of noise the last few weeks, including from our pod here and from all the shows I'm on an ESPN, which I'm pushing that narrative also, the pressure on JJ McCarthy. He said what's so interesting was he couldn't physically do it. He couldn't physically practice. So what they had JJ McCarthy doing was simulating all the stuff at the line of scrimmage. So what would you do if you were at the line of scrimmage? Now you can't move, you can't run, you can't throw. We're putting you on ice until you get fully healthy with this ankle. But do you have all the calls at the line? Do you know how to get everyone into alignment? Do you know how to have everything set so that if it's a loud environment, we could be good to go and we can pivot? And if you watch that game back, JJ McCarthy is in complete control at the line. This is a guy who missed, I believe the number was, I want to say, is it possible that he missed all of last year? So let's say that's 19 games because they went to the playoffs. Well, 18 games because they had the bye week and a playoff game. So 19 games there. And then he's missed his last 5 starts. So he's missed 24 games as a pro. He's missed 24 games as being put in a little bottle on the side and saying, figure out your injuries and heal. But while he was doing that, he didn't go and, sit in the corner and sulk. He's actually been trying to do everything mentally, the things that he could handle. So, as we quote Sean McVay, the above the neck, JJ McCarthy mastered. So if you watch Sunday's game, no delay of game penalties, complete poise, multiple audibles at the line of scrimmage. And on 3rd and 5, when they needed it most, he made the play. And it wasn't to Jefferson or Addison. It was to Naylor. JJ McCarthy, 9-point underdog, finds a way on the road, keeps the Viking season alive, and silences a few of us in the process. One more note from the weekend. I just got back from Dallas. I picked the Cardinals to win, and I'm on NFL Live, and I'm like just saying, well, I don't know how they're going to stop McBride and Harrison, and someone in my ear is like, well, it is Jacoby Brissett. Jacoby Brissett can play football now, and if you want to go by who the pillars in football are to me, the people that I look up to and talk to. And it could be, as much as I lean on McVay for his thoughts and I lean on Sean Payton for his thoughts, there was no bigger advocate for Jacoby Brissett coming out of the draft. No bigger fan, no bigger person in his corner than Bill Parcells. And when Jacoby Brissett was thrown into the fire, when A, Tom Brady was suspended for Deflategate, and then B, Jimmy Garoppolo went down with an injury, it was Jacoby Brissett on a Thursday night who was able to hold down the fort and beat the Houston Texans when they were clicking and firing on all cylinders as a rookie. And then since then, Brissett's done, the gentleman's tour of the NFL, been everywhere as a starter, backup, and he's like that perfect, well, I don't want to name him starter on week 1 for the season, but he can get us to a start. And then if we have to put Drake May in at some point, we will. And he's also the perfect. And if our starter doesn't work out, we can go to Jacoby Brissett and he's going to win us games. Brissett was awesome on Monday night, and he lit up a Cowboys team that is not good. I want to give out some awards. That's what we do here on this show. We like to be bountiful in these awards. And my player of the week is a 37-year-old quarterback who I think is having the best season of his NFL career. Matthew Stafford was incredible on Sunday, and he's been incredible his last 2 games. You go back to London when they played the Jaguars, he had 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Follows that up after the bye, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Remember the offseason. Is Stafford coming back? Well, we've got to redo the contract a little bit. We got to make this work. Are the Steelers interested? Are the Giants interested? Do we make a trade? Does Stafford want to come back? There was a meeting of the minds. Stafford and McVay, they are happy, and they're going to hold hands and run off into the sunset. And as we get to the offseason, there's questions about his back. He's not practicing at training camp. Is he going to be okay to play week 1? He hasn't played. It's already August 10th. What is going on? He missed the mixed practices with the Cowboys. Are we all in on the Rams if it has to be Jimmy Garoppolo to start the season? It feels like those conversations, which were like yesterday, happened 20 years ago. Stafford dialed in, no look passes, hitting all these different receivers, has a swag to him. The Rams are cooking right now. They play the 49ers on Sunday. And remember, they lost that Thursday night game in a game where I think the Rams really felt like they should have won. Now, that was at home. This one's in San Francisco. That was on a Thursday night. This one in Santa Clara. I'm going to say this, looking at who is on the field for that 49ers defense, which is just being riddled with injury, I think we see a very different game than we did when they played just a few weeks ago on that Thursday night. I think the Rams have a score to settle, and I think Stafford just keeps it rolling. He's the player of the week. From week 9, he might end up being the player of the week from week 10, and he might very well be hoisting his first MVP trophy at NFL Honors later on this season. Now, our sports media winner. This is always, I get more people lobbying for the sports media winner award than anything I do. I think I hear from everyone saying, "Hey, did you hear this call? Really good call from the third team on CBS. Did you see this thing that was done on TNT's Big 12 coverage? You might like this for your winner." All right. First of all, we give love to everybody. We've given love to JJ Watt. He's a CBS guy. We've given love to Pat McAfee. He's an ESPN guy. We've given love to Fox guys. Today's winner is a gentleman named Joe Carp. Joe Carp is the sports media winner of the week. Who is Joe Carp? Joe Carp is the audio guy on the Fox World Series production team. And Joe Carp's the one who curates that playlist. You know what I'm talking about. If you know, you know. And I've got the playlist here. In between innings, it is like the soundtrack to our lives. First of all, we're hanging on every pitch. We're hanging on every out, every swing of a bat. And then they go to commercial, and it's almost like this guy's playing God on the jukebox. He's like, it might as well be Diplo at Burning Man or whatever some music festival in Ibiza is. He's got it all. Okay, so here's the innings. We go through the top of the first. Bon Jovi, It's My Life. Banger. End of the first. Portugal, The Man, Feel It Still. You put that song on your Spotify, you'll know the song. After the top of the first, Disco Lines and Tinashe, No Broke Boys. You know this one? No Broke Boys. Dun, dun, dun. Big summer hit. Great. Has you out of your seat. Then we start going. The MLB on Fox theme. Then Jerry Joseph, Radio Cab. Then POD Boom, going back to early 2000s. White Stripes, Seven Nation Army. If I'm being honest, I can do it without it. Whatever. It's a little bit on brand. But here's the one I loved. Little bench clearing action in this one. They finish up the fourth inning. Someone, Joe Carp, is on it. Boom. Taylor Swift, Bad Blood, original version. Let's go. He knew it. Keep on ripping through these. Living on a Prayer, Chainsaw City, 12 to 12. We've got Hot Stuff by Kygo version with Donna Summer. You go Led Zeppelin when the levee breaks after in the seventh when they actually got a big hit. And then it's like, I'm feeling myself. I'm going to go to these big spots here and I'm going to drop it. End of the eighth, Foreigner. Feels like the first time. Now we know the Blue Jays had won, but at this point it felt like for a lot of them, feels like the first time. They were showing Vlad Guerrero going into commercial. Feels like the first time. Like, this guy's amazing. Middle of the ninth, Eminem, Lose Yourself. Then end of the ninth. This is the one that got me. I mean, this guy, Joe Carp, I don't know who you listened to as a kid, as your DJ, Scott and Todd in the morning here in New York, or whoever it was. If you want to go to, whatever it is on Hot 97 and Dr. Dre and Ed Lover and whoever else, this guy knows. End of the ninth, we're going to extra innings. We had Halloween the night before. He goes to Thriller, and this guy's amazing, Joe Carp. I'm like, what an incredible deal this is. Then end of the 10th, the Zombies, Time of the Season. Are you serious? What a hit. We go middle of the 11th, One Republic, West Coast, obviously the Dodgers. And then we get all the shots and everything. Pete Macheska, one of my favorite people in TV. He is the producer. His first World Series was actually 2004 Cardinals versus Red Sox. He did that ALCS where they were down 3-0. His last World Series, he's retiring from baseball. He'll still begin to be doing the Olsen Joe Davis games, the second team on Fox. But his last World Series and his last World Series game was that Game 7 that was absolutely amazing between the Blue Jays and the Dodgers. And the music, and we're giving out awards to the audio guy on a baseball crew. That's how good this podcast is. Joe Carp, we see you. Real quick, a preview of this weekend's games. I think there is a colossal matchup that loses a little steam on Monday night. Packers versus Eagles. That Packers loss can be looked at in two different ways. It could be looked at as the classic trap game, weird head scratcher, strange uniforms, 1:00 start at home, wind, weather, all that. What the heck was that from the Packers after a huge win on Sunday night against the Steelers? Or you could look at it as there's real problems for this team. We're going to speak to the head coach of the Carolina Panthers in a second, but I don't know what to make of the Packers when we all crown them as the Super Bowl favorites, but they lose at home to a Panthers team that threw for about 100 yards. So you got them, and then you got the Eagles. And the Eagles are coming off a bye. And the last 2 times we've seen the Eagles, they've absolutely looked awesome. The game that we saw against the Giants, you can make all the comments you want about the officiating and the tush push. They kicked their ass. And then the week before that, Jalen Hurts threw for 330 yards against the Vikings, which was the number 1 pass defense in the league. So Eagles come in off a bye. They have a bunch of new players. Obviously, Brandon Graham's going to be on the field now. And then you got Jalen Phillips, who played with Vic Fangio in Miami for Phillips's big double-digit sack season. And I like Phillips. I liked Phillips at UCLA. I liked Phillips at Miami, and I like him on the Dolphins. Jalen Phillips is a baller. Jalen Phillips comes to that team. And then Jair Alexander. Is there anything left in the tank? I don't know, but he's going back to Green Bay. So that's a fun little storyline considering he was their biggest player for a couple of years there on defense. You got that game, and then you got that Rams-Niners game, which I find captivating. I really do. I think the Rams can blow them out here. I think they can blow them out here. And then suddenly we're having a real discussion about the Rams and whether this is the team to beat. So 4 NFC teams that are all in the mix right now to have that 1 seed: the Niners, the Rams, the Packers, the Eagles. It's a little mini playoff, a little mini tournament, and I can't wait to see it. The coach that we're going to be having on shortly, Canales, I think his Panthers have a nice little path here. They've got 3 games up ahead that they can win, and they suddenly can beef up their record and be in position to challenge the Buccaneers in the NFC South, and at the very least, compete for a wild card. We're going to get to Dave Canales in a second. Love it. The Schrager Hour. Let's keep it rolling. Fresh off one of the biggest wins the franchise has had in several years, we now have the head coach of the Carolina Panthers, Mr. Dave Canales, on the Schrager Hour. Coach, what's up, my man?
Shoot, doing great. As you can imagine, on a Tuesday, we're already firmly, in game plan mode for the New Orleans Saints coming up this week. But super proud of the group going up there and playing in that environment and doing what it took to win.
The post-game locker room video made the rounds, and I always wonder, do you guys even think in the moment that this is going to be recorded? But it was so raw, and it was so emotional, and it's you just so dialed in and celebrating, and it was like, I want to be a part of that team. I want to be a part of that locker room. That moment when you get in the locker room after the victory, what's going through your head and what's going through your veins as you guys are celebrating that thing?
I just kept thinking about this group and just asking them to dream with me a little bit. And, it started the night before in the hotel and, just kind of looking around at the room and saying, hey, look, let me just paint a picture for you. Okay. And just talked about the different, playoff scenarios that I've been a part of, in my career as a coach. And it's going to feel like this. It's going to be pretty cool. The weather's going to, there might be some wind, there might be some snow. It's going to be an electric environment. It's going to be loud, and it's going to call on the best football that you have. And we have an amazing opponent that we're about to play. Dream with me here. We hosted a game at home. We won. We're on the road. Usually that's what happens. And we get to play this team right here. But we're going to have to do right the whole time. We're going to have to take advantage of the mistakes that they make to capitalize and finish the way we want to. So it was a really cool moment to kind of circle back around with the guys after the game and say, can you just dream with me a little bit? And to just kind of keep building off of that.
And if you're a dreamer, I don't think in a lot of people's eyes there was a dream of that victory coming off a big game against the Bills where you guys didn't win and they handled business in your building, and you come out of that and you're like, all right, let's see what these Panthers are all about. But I don't think you do the Vegas thing. I don't think you are someone who focuses on this, but this was the biggest win spread-wise by an underdog outright since 2023. So you guys really were huge underdogs, and yet these young Panthers players, they dared to dream.
Absolutely, and we're a volatile team because you've seen, we've had some rough games. The Patriots game I think of, right off the bat, and the Bills game certainly, and getting away from the style of football that we want to play. And my job as their head coach is to convince them we're capable of playing a certain style of football where we take care of it. And sometimes you're trying, and the other team makes a play. I understand that part, but it's about capturing the things that lead to our success. And it's about that complementary football. It's taking care of the ball, getting a few more explosives than the opponent and minimizing it and flipping the field and playing well on special teams. It's all the same stuff that works, working with 2 different head coaches with Pete Carroll and Todd Bowles, and different styles. They care about the same things. And those are the things that work for you. So, speaking of Vegas, I try not to look. They're very right a lot of times, and I just can't afford to take my mind there. I just got to say, what if though? What if we play a really good game and we take advantage of some things and minimize some other things, and all of a sudden we're right there looking at it at the end?
This guy, Rico Dowdle, I love his story. I love the fact that he tells the Dallas Cowboys publicly, buckle up, and then goes and runs for 200 yards. And then against the Packers in Lambeau, the best player in the field is Rico Dowdle. Take us through this guy and your journey with him, because this was not one of those breaking news. The Carolina Panthers have signed Rico Dowdle free agent acquisitions.
Yeah, so this goes back to my time in Tampa. Our running backs coach, Skip Peete, had Rico in Dallas on the practice squad, and we weren't able to acquire him in Tampa at the time. But he was like, "Hey, Dave, there's a guy that I think would be worth looking at. It's Rico Dowdle. The guy is tough. He cares. He's into it. He's a good dude. You'd really love his play style. He runs with a lot of violence." And so it kind of started there. And then we weren't able to acquire him there. And then of course last year he comes into Bank of America Stadium with the Cowboys and had a day, running the ball and ran with violence. And so with all that information, as Dan and I just talked about it and looked at who can come in and give us that style of play that we're looking for, knowing we had Chuba, and Chuba, he runs hard and he gets the tough yards, and he's in such great shape. As the game goes on, he would break one and do these things. And Rico came in, man on a mission, and really energized the group with the violence and the way that he runs. And you hear it in his voice. This is a guy that is a dreamer as well. And he's like, let me see how good I can be. Let me see what I can go do. And breathing things into existence is exactly the type of vibe that I want to be around.
Your whole demeanor, I think, is so contagious. And you and I have spoken many times before, some on camera, some off. And I just feel like I want to follow Dave Canales. And there's a loving nature to everything you talk about with these players. And it's not necessarily what we were used to as kids with high school coaches, or what we watched on NFL films with coaches shouting at players. You have this, I'm not going to say the word softer, but there is more of a, I would say, engaging. What would you even say? How would you describe your coaching style? In that there's a compassion when I hear you talk about your players and talk about the game of football.
It's just always been me. And I had a great mentor in Pete Carroll, and coach would always just say, like, don't try to be me, like be yourself, but care what I care about, and the things that are important. But you have to have your own style, because you can do that every day. That's sustainable if you can be yourself. And the only way that I've seen success, as a coach, is by connecting with guys on a one-on-one basis, and making sure that they understand I have their best interests in mind. And I'm not worried about them just being good. I'm worried about them finding their best, and trying to do that for myself, and pursue what can I learn? What's the next step for me? How can I grow? And taking information in from guys. Got to talk about Sean Mannion, who I saw last week. A guy that I learned a ton from when I was coaching quarterbacks. And he had all these little tips and tells and reminders, and hey, I gotta work this thing. This is what I struggle with. I gotta work this. And just the way that his mind work is, just making sure that I'm connecting both ways, and the players understand that, and really they grow up and they learn to own things. It's like, look, no, this is your job. This is not for me. You're not out there representing me. You're representing yourself. How can I help you?
I look at this Panthers team, and I would have said in August that they might be a surprise team, but they're probably built for next year to really come on strong and really compete, because they're just so young. And yet here you are, 5-4. The next 3 weeks are winnable games. Every game's obviously a crapshoot, but they are winnable games on the schedule. Have you gotten the chance to really connect with these players to think that the future could be now with this squad? We could be the team of 2025.
Yeah, I never want to communicate anything other than we're trying to win this week to our group. And it's because of how hard they work. It's how hard they play on game day, and what it really takes from a physical, mental, emotional, spiritual standpoint for these guys. They're giving everything they have. I think about last year. I think about how hard we had to work to win 5 games, and I always want to honor that. I want to honor the effort, the hours that go in from the staff. All the supporting staff and everyone that's pulling to win this week. I cannot look too far into the future as far as like what this thing could be, or try to make statements other than, can we find our best, and can we be better than we were last week? Can we just own this thing? Like thing I share with the team a lot is I say, let's go further up and further in. This is a C.S. Lewis quote, and it's about not adding more things, but it's about really just like tuning the microscope. Let's just go further into this thing, into our concepts, into our systems, and our ability to improve. And I think that works. I truly believe whether you're a team that's struggling to find wins, or you're a team that's been winning and wants to sustain success, the way to do it is by just honing and honing and honing. And that's got to be the pursuit every day.
It's so hard when there's injuries and there's personal lives and there's family life and then there's outside factors. To really hone in and focus on a collective goal is really the ultimate quest in this coaching deal. And I love watching you do this with these guys. They're all on board. Is there a team captain that you look to? Is there someone in that building that you look to and say, hey, I'm going to be the coach, but I'm going to need a little bit more from you on the field. I'm going to need you to be the voice on the field so that we can carry out this plan.
I got a great group of guys, and they're really high character players, fantastic athletes as well. Start off with Derrick Brown. And, Derrick he'll say some words, and he's got a real sense about what he believes and who we are and how to move on from games, whether it's a win or a loss. He goes right back to work, but it really is about the way that he exerts himself in practice, in training camp, on the field. You want to see hustle, watch Derrick Brown. He's all over the place. It could be a perimeter screen that goes for 10 yards. He's around the tackle at the end of it, and it's the heart of that where that kind of consistency and effort from your best player, on the defensive side, it just forces everybody to look at themselves and be accountable to the type of effort it requires to be excellent, and so I really lean on him. I lean on Chuba a lot. Chuba is a guy that has his world in order. I love pointing to how detailed and organized he is with his life, the way that he just goes about his work in a professional way, takes care of his body. He loves it so much. It means everything to him. And those are the guys that I really point to in terms of just who we are and the fabric of this team.
I think Derrick Brown is one of these classic cases of you guys aren't the Cowboys, you're not the Steelers, you're not the Packers, you're not on national TV. But for those in the know and those who follow the league, hands down, everyone says Derrick Brown is probably the most underappreciated defensive player and maybe the defensive player of the year in the NFL this season. What can you tell us about Derrick Brown, the player, and the wreckage that he does on the field?
Yeah, I know this firsthand from coaching against him. And then, of course, now that he's playing for us and healthy, to see the effect that he has on the front side of runs, backside of runs. And the cool part is, like, his whole pass rush package is continuing to get better every week, and he's finding edges. He's finding a way to get the offensive lineman off balance to affect the passer. It's not amounted to a lot of sacks, but he's affecting the pocket. And really, that's what you want. That's why the ball comes out a little bit earlier than it should at times, but he understands that and he works at his craft. And, I think beyond that, like, he's just a really intelligent guy too. He's cerebral. He understands his players. It means a lot to him to connect with the guys. They're always playing games, competing in different ways, in the locker room, on the planes and all that. And I couldn't say more about DB and what he means to this team.
I look at your resume, and we've talked about it before. I think it's one of the coolest stories. You went from being a high school coach to an offensive coordinator at El Camino. You were at USC for a bit, and then you come in as an assistant strength coach with the Seahawks. And that's for a while there. For 3 years, you were the assistant strength coach, and then you make the way onto being one of these quarterback gurus. And I don't mean to be dismissive saying one of these quarterback gurus, one of the great quarterback whisperers in this league. When you look back on those early days being the assistant strength coach in Seattle to what you are now, the head coach of an NFL football team, do you ever take a second to let that soak in and realize just how unlikely a journey this was?
Yeah, so Peter, so I was assistant strength coach at USC.
Sorry, let's change that up. Change that up. Let me do this here.
So the order is here. So El Camino College, I was a position coach. Then I was USC strength coach. And then I went to Seattle as quality control. And then I had like 7 different titles.
Okay, let's go to you being the assistant strength coach at USC. You look back on that's 2009. You go back to that year. Could you have ever imagined that you'd be the head coach of an NFL football team within 2 decades?
The dream of what it could be really propelled me and opened my eyes to the opportunities. Could I predict that? No, but that's what I was after. And, that really goes back to my days coaching JV football at Carson High in Los Angeles, California. And, I read the books, and we had Pete Carroll down the street, at USC. And I was like, man, like, if I want to do it, I want to do it like he did it, and just with the free way that he coaches and the way that he had his players just, connecting together, and to have the opportunity to be on that staff, I was looking for a chance to do it, and that's something I try to encourage our players, our coaches with is the things that you set your eyes on will open your eyes up to the opportunities that may open that window. It's the same way as, like, if you love a Porsche, and you've been looking at 911s all the time, I promise you'll see every single one when you drive down the road every day. And that's like whatever you put your focus on, all of a sudden you're looking for those opportunities, and then from there, just blessed to be around a bunch of amazing coaches that I drew a lot of information from. And then the players, and learning from Russell Wilson, learning from Matt Hasselbeck, Tavares Jackson, rest in peace. And then having that time with Gino when he was a backup and establishing that relationship. Baker Mayfield in Tampa, guys that brought a lot to me. And I was like, what can I bring back to them to try to make the most out of this situation and help them be successful?
I think your story resonates with a lot of people who are either going to make a career change in any line of work and in life or in just coaching. So you're a JV coach at a high school and USC is the biggest show in town down the street. Eventually you do get into that building and you're working there. What were the steps that you took directly that you controlled in your thing? Were you sending resumes? Were you calling Pete's office? Were you trying to get in front of the athletic director? What could you possibly do other than just do your job to make that happen from a connection standpoint to get to the Trojans?
Absolutely. Like, be where you're at and be excellent where you are. And that's first and foremost is, do you have what it takes to be excellent and grow and learn and say, okay, be vulnerable with things you don't know, learn from the best. We had USC and UCLA right in our backyard. There was a bunch of excellent high school coaches and quarterback trainers and people that I wanted to learn from, and just going to clinics, asking if I could be around at practices at USC, and had Steve Sarkisian actually was my connection there, and he played and coached at El Camino College where I spent some time. So he opened the door and said, "Come, sit in the back of the meetings, watch practice." I did that for about once a week in the spring for about 3 years. Before
3 years.
Yep, and just it was during spring ball, so it was just a couple of weeks. Every Tuesday I'd go. I was a substitute teacher at LA Unified School District, but every Tuesday I'd be at practice. I'd sit in the back of the meetings. I'd take notes, ask questions, try to incorporate it in where I was coaching at the time. And that relationship developed into an opportunity. And then, after that, just by God's grace and timing, ended up being at USC for a year, the year before Pete took the Seahawks job. So, and the rest it's been the same journey. It's been wherever I find myself. What is the learning curve? What don't I know? Who has that information? And people will find out, for whoever listens to this. People are so gracious with what they have when they know you're passionate about what they do. You're appreciative of how good they are. People are very gracious with sharing. This is what I do. Here's how I set my day and organize it. This is what I watch. This is how I develop. And then you just continue to grow.
Yeah. And you mentioned the coaches with Pete Carroll, but there were so many amazing coaches in the Seahawks organization during those years. And a lot of them are still sprinkled all over across the league. Can you give us a good Pete Carroll story? Obviously compete every day, win the day, all the stuff that he does. Give us a good Pete Carroll story that you tell at a dinner party or a coaching clinic that you're like, here's Pete Carroll in a nutshell.
I'm always amazed with his ability in games to affect the outcome, and whether it's challenging a guy in the right way. I have a great story. And it's we're playing against the Rams. It might have been Sean McVay's first or second year, but we're in LA at the Coliseum. Tyler Lockett has an injury. They're working on him. They're trying to get him back out there on the field. He comes back out with his knee wrapped up and all that, and he's kind of got a little bit of a shocked look in his eyes. And I'm sitting there. I'm the receivers coach, and Tyler's not certain whether he's going to go back in or not. And Pete kind of walks by me and goes, "Hey, bear with me on this." He turns around and starts yelling at me, "David, what are you doing? Get him in the game. What are we waiting for?" And Tyler kind of perks up, and I'm like, "Hey, get in there. So Tyler runs out on the field. We end up calling a shot play action shot play. Russell launches the ball about 50 yards. Tyler runs underneath it, makes the catch. A guy that went from this deer in the headlight looks to all of a sudden shocked, like, I got to go, this adrenaline shot. The play happens, and Pete just coolly walks by me and just gives me a wink, and then just keeps walking. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how do I get that good as a head coach to where you can affect it? And the guy can go. He's been cleared. He's not sure. Have that presence of mind to affect it. Unbelievable. And that's just one of many stories where, he could just sense it and feel what was happening in the group. and have a way to just like affect it in a positive way.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And it's affecting it, and it's giving the confidence and the inspiration of the player that, wait, I can go. He's chewing out my coach. Like, I have to go. I've got to do it. It's on me now. That's great. That's
Incredible.
great. Do you have a good Russ story? Because obviously his career has been a roller coaster since Seattle, but I think for 10 years, there was no more consistent quarterback in the league.
I think when I think of Russ, I think of belief. Always believe. This goes back to the 2014 conference championship game. It's
Green
the
Bay
Packers, and I get to relive it every once in a while with Coach Dom Capers here in the building, who was the defensive coordinator. I don't bring it up. He usually brings it up. But you're talking about 4 interceptions and really a day where we couldn't get much done for most of the game. But Russell's working the sideline. Let's go. You got to believe. We're going to be all right. Here we go. The next series is the one. The next series is the one. Interception. Hey, I promise you guys, this next one's the one. Interception is just like the way that the game played out, to just continue to believe as long as we have our moment, as long as we get another opportunity, we have time and downs, I'm comfortable going to win this game. And it took us all the way to overtime. A cover 0 post to Jermaine Kearse to send us to Super Bowl 49. But it's a lot of those moments where it didn't really matter the score and all that. Russell was ready to go for the next series and ready to bring his guys along and work the sidelines and make sure that we were all just going to the next series. Just true belief.
I was the reporter for that Blair Walsh game. You guys go into Minnesota in the College Stadium, and it's the coldest game I've ever been a part of. And I've done a lot of them in Green Bay and all that. And it's just nothing going. And then at the end of the game, Russ pulls it out. And it's like, at that point, it was like, you can never count out the Seahawks because of the belief, because of the competitive spirit. And so much of it was the players. But I'd always say, you notice this team never quit. That has to come from above.
Absolutely. And just, we owe it to ourselves to give everything we have the whole time. We owe it to each other for the work put in, the sacrifices made. I lean on a lot of gratitude. I lean on a lot of, just gratitude for all of the sacrifices that have been made for all of us to be at this point. You think about family members, you think about friends, you think about a coach at some point who believed in you and said you have what it takes. And then you think about you. You think about what you've done, the sacrifices you've made, the work you've put in to get to this moment, to get to this game. Play with everything you have the whole time. And sometimes the game plays out the way you want it to. Sometimes you're stuck and you're down a bunch of scores, but guess what? We still have time on this clock right here. And this is you on film. This is your resume. What does it mean to you? What kind of pride do you have to put out your best at all times? And I think that it resonates with the guys. I truly believe that. And I certainly live from that spirit of what an amazing moment to be able to walk out into Lambeau Field as a head coach in the NFL. And you don't think that I go out there and I'm looking around and just kind of thinking about the dream, and I hope that that's infectious on our guys. Like, look how cool this is. What an amazing moment we're living right now. This is the greatest day of your life.
It's so cool. And then to actually have that moment before the game, let it resonate, let it wash over you, and then coach your tail off and find yourself in the locker room 3 hours later celebrating with your guys. It has to be the ultimate reward.
Absolutely. And just hope and confidence. I think it's having this great balance of being truthful and being hopeful at the same time, and being able to come off of a win like that and to be able to look at the ways that we gave them opportunities and the opportunities we missed, and to be able to grow from that, and at the same time say, and also we did it all together. And it took offense, took defense, going 1 for 5 in the red zone, and it came down to a special teams play and Ryan putting the ball through the
in the wind.
Unbelievable. So it was just an amazing team win, all across the board.
And though the stat line doesn't always show it, the offense made the plays when they had to. And I feel like this Panthers team, some games you're going to shut out the Falcons 30-0, and other games it's going to have to come a different way. You obviously have all those guys on board. Give us an update as we're at the midway point, and listeners might be curious, like, where are we at with Bryce Young now in another year, and he's halfway point, and now we're in playoff contention at 5-4 and really looking down the barrel at what could be a really magical season. Bryce Young's the quarterback, face of the franchise. Where are we at with him?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. The more opportunities that we get to present Bryce Young with critical downs, the more he shows he's going to be the same guy, and he's going to make the throw. He's going to take the right footwork. he's going to make the right decision and give you an accurate throw. And over and over, it's games on the line. We got a chance to win. You want the ball in Bryce Young's hands, and he's been continually consistent. And the greatest players that I've been around in my 15 and a half years in the NFL, they stay the same regardless of the moment, and they're able to execute at such a high level. I remember Richard Sherman saying, the bigger the moment, the smaller my focus. I just take my first step. I get my hands in the right place. I kick, transition to one, get my head around for the ball, knock it to Malcolm Smith for an interception to send us to Super Bowl 48. And he talks about those moments and how clear and focused his mind is. And, Bryce has just shown to just have the ability to make those decisions in the critical situations. And it makes us together as a team to say, let's find more of these high stakes moments to put ourselves in so that we can collectively execute the way that we know that we can.
I watch this Panthers team from afar. I'm not there every day. And I guess the national narrative is one thing, and then the day-to-day is totally different. Your owner, David Tepper, is in some ways a polarizing figure because he could be vocal, whether it be on CNBC or whether it be at the NFL league meetings. And then yet during the season, kind of you don't see him as much in the spotlight and sort of lets his guys do his things. Who is the real David Tepper now, getting to know him over the last, 18 months working for the Carolina Panthers?
I think he's unbelievable. And again, this goes back to just my curiosity for amazing people, high achievers who have done it, at all different levels. And for Mr. Tepper, and Nicole, being in this sports space, and building a team, I just want to draw from the things that have led to his success. And the thing that I've appreciated the most about our conversations with Dan Morgan and Brant Tillis and Mr. Tepper is he really just wants great process, and he doesn't care whose fault it was or what or why. It's just, can we get to the truth, guys? Can we get to the truth of what led to a great decision and great success? Can we get to the truth of what led to a poor decision or what led to a failure in this regard? And it's this ruthless truthfulness about what's going on. And it's freeing. It really is freeing. And I look back and I say, well, here's a man who's been wildly successful in all the things that he's done. And what he cares about most is great process. And so I just take that on personally and make sure that shows up for us as a staff, for our players as well. Do we have a great process in place throughout the week? Where can we fine tune it? Where can we tweak it to make it better? What's working for us? What's not working for us? And it allows us to have that reflective, these reflective moments where we can say, okay, guys, everybody set your egos aside. What's the breakdown here? Or why is this working? Let's make sure we really know why it's working so that nothing is left to chance. Let's be really intentional with what we're doing. So that's impacted me in a real positive way. And beyond that, just having great conversations about life, about family, about raising kids, raising teenagers, all the stuff that we're going through now, Lizzie and I, to be able to connect on those levels. But I've just really enjoyed it. Our conversations are always productive, and we're on the same page. We're trying to win this game, trying to win this day right now. Speaking of, Mr. Tepper, he's reminds me all the time, never lose that chip, never forget where you came from. And so I have this picture here. That's just a reminder of where I started. This is 2004. I'm the head coach of the JV football team at Carson High School, my alma mater. And that's me with the baggy khakis right there and a bunch of knuckleheads with jerseys that are way too big. But I never forget this. I'd be pacing the halls at Super Kmart in the middle of the night, just panicked about
thinking plays,
Vandas High School, and it's just that feeling has not gone away. And, last week it happened to be Lambeau Field, but it all started here. I'll never forget, the love and support I've had, and also just the passion for this game. So I love just having that as a reminder there.
That's an empty stadium, a JV game, probably played on a Friday afternoon at 4:00 before the varsity. And yet you treated that like you did the Panthers going into Lambeau in week 8.
Absolutely. And never forget it. Never lose that.
Gosh, I love that. That's awesome, Coach. Whether it's at a league meeting or it's, at an NFL function, I've seen him, at the Super Bowl a few times. He is a chop buster to the highest degree, and wants to, and especially with me, because he sees me as this media guy, and he's like, oh, here comes Schrager. But then he'll get into something that's not football related, and I'm listening okay. And then at the end of it, and I think that's pretty interesting. That's what he'll say. And that's interesting. And that's interesting. And I'm always all right, he just mentioned something from what's going on in China in the economy right now, or something that's happening in the Middle East. And he's like, I don't know. He's like, and he somehow has a way to weave it all in to what the conversation is. I just think he's a fascinating mind. And as much as football fans are like, yeah, but he weighs in on this, or he doesn't weigh in on that, or he did this or that. It's like, I get it. That's all one thing. But like, you have to realize you can't question a curious mind and a high achiever.
Absolutely. And, I think, on top of that, he's a guy from Pittsburgh. He's blue collar as they come in terms of just his approach and how he evaluates people and, just takes all of the different things in and loves to have the in-person meetings and, Zoom if he has to. But, he wants to be around. And, for me, that resonates. I'm from Carson, California, and anyone who knows Carson, California, like we're humble, we're hardworking people and believers, and just like really believe that hard work pays off. And, that's a legacy that I know that he has for sure too. So that resonates with me as well as his ability to connect on a one-on-one level. All
right. I'm going to wrap with you. I'm going to give you 3 names, rapid fire. Just give me the first things you think of, because I know you've got to go coach a football team. Number 1, your first round pick, Teteroa McMillan.
Focus.
Okay.
One play to the next, and the guy, just good or bad, he goes to the next play. He refocuses.
I love that. Okay. That's that. Number 2, Marshawn Lynch, the running back for Seattle. All those years you guys were going to the playoffs in the Super Bowl.
Beast mode. That's easy. Run through your face.
Run through your face. That's it. And then the last one, the Legion of Boom.
Brotherhood. Playing for each other.
Yeah. It's special. We're hoping to write some new chapters with this Carolina Panthers franchise. Year 2 already have matched the win total for the Carolina Panthers since 2022. The win total high already at 5. Coach Canales, I cannot thank you enough during the season, during a week where you guys have a big game against a division rival, sitting around with us and chopping it up. You're the man. So appreciate it. Good luck the rest of the way.
Hey, thank you. Appreciate it, Peter. Honor and a privilege to be with you. And, thanks for reaching out. I love connecting with you. So love what you do. Love your positivity and the stories that you tell. That's why, without a shadow of a doubt, wanted to get on here and connect with you again.
Well, that means the world. All right. Go coach him up this weekend. Thank you, Coach.
All right. See ya.
Good luck, my friend. Busy day. You got a trade of Sauce Gardner. You've got all sorts of rumors and gossip and action and teams competing. And then we get Dave Canales, who just is always like this. And I think his stability, his faith, his ability to emote, and his uber confidence, and, the word gratitude came out of his mouth so many times. Like, it is a calming presence. And if you're a young player, I would definitely gravitate towards that. And then he has that edge. He doesn't show it in this interview, and he's not necessarily going to give it to you in a podium setting. But gosh, if you watch him game day, he's one of these animals. And he was an animal in the locker room after they won that game in the post-game video that came out. I will say this. I love, love, love that he has a picture of himself coaching JV in khaki pants in front of an empty stadium in 2004. You don't think this guy's got some edge? You don't think this guy's got a chip on his shoulder? Dave Canales, cool cat. And I'll be watching his cats the rest of the way. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching on the YouTube or wherever else you watch and listen to the Schrager Hour. My utmost gratitude to those who work on the show. Tucker, Mark Grillo, Rochelle, Jack, who's been crushing it with these social clips, and the entire Omaha team back there in the Omaha home office. And then our music man, Mr. DJ Leverage. And then to all of you who are listening and who are watching these clips, the Michael Irvin one was tremendous and you guys gave great feedback. Hopefully this one will do the same. We're just having fun. Big NFL weekend up ahead, but which NFL weekend isn't? Enjoy. I'll talk to you guys next week.